M16s actually. I know a few sites. I don't know, but typically they're 20,000.
Jeez, those were the old standard issue military rifles from the American
Yep.
military. Yeah.
M16, A2, and A1s. Yeah, polymer shit. But yeah, those are 20,000 ish. Same with them. You can get MP5s too, actually, but those are like 25,000.
Those are the fully automatic submachine guns.
Yeah, the MP5 9mm
Yeah,
submachine guns. Yeah, those are fucking ridiculous. I don't know. I feel like we got off track. I don't know. Is there anything else?
Yeah, no, I don't. I guess because I obviously, depending on what particular conversation you're listening to, I can either sound extremely right leaning or extremely left leaning.
Yeah, sometimes you're all over the place. I don't know. I guess I got the wrong idea.
No, yeah, no, I'm actually very pro guns. Like I enjoy guns. Like they're like listening to people talk about anything that they're totally clueless about. Like really triggers the fuck out of me. Typically, anytime somebody starts going on about like assault weapons needing to be banned, like I start to get a tingle. Like what exactly do you mean by that? I don't know if you saw the fuck, was it Polygon? Who was the game guy that did like a VR thing
Polygon,
of firing a gun?
Yeah, I have the video.
This is very scary. Like this is
You want
a
me to pull it
tool.
up?
Nah, it's fine. Oh, dude, like yeah, like shit like that. Like it's like okay, dude, like you're being a little bit fucking dramatic, dog. Like you go to like spend what is it like fucking $15 to go to a range for an hour. It's not expensive. Fire a gun a few times. You'll be a little jumpy the first time in, and you'll come out like probably feeling infinitely more well-rounded or having a better opinion of it than. Like you're holding like he was holding like the fucking Terminator machine or some shit. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh, here's that video. Oh god. Yeah, Polygon's a video. When he shot the gun in game, he said he fucking
He jumped a little.
PTSD. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know. I thought you were more anti-gun, but actually, yeah, you're not.
All right. Well, hey.
Quite educational.
Yeah, I'm glad you came on. It was fun to talk. You don't think I'm as retarded, so that's always good.
Oh no. I mean, yeah. So there's there's a lot of things we could probably agree or disagree on.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing, yeah, you're actually not too bad.
Yeah, I try. I guess depending on what you've listened to, what I was saying before is like sometimes I can make some hyperbolic statements. Sometimes like no one should be allowed to drive, no one should be allowed to own guns, just because there are a couple of stories that come up that are so exceptionally fucking stupid. I'm like very maybe because I have a son and I'm not retarded. I'm very very big on gun safety, like that fucking like racking everything 3 times and clearing everything. Like I'm very very anal about all of it. Yeah. Well, yeah, you say the autism, but there are certain things like everybody has an accident with guns. Like I don't think that's true at all. I don't think there's no reason for like anybody to have a negligent discharge ever in their entire life. It should really never happen. But like you have stories of like you remember that the guy that owned, I think it was the owner of the gun range that was with that little girl and gave her some was it a Glock 20?
No. Shit, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the fully automatic fucking pistol. This chick was like 9 years old. Like, why would you?
The Glock 17 or the Glock 18.
It might have been the Glock 18. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fully auto one that civilians can't get. Yeah, I think so. She it flipped back into
and just killed. Yeah, like why would you even?
No, yeah. Oh, and there was this one case. Do you know what the Smith & Wesson 500 is?
Is that enormous fucking revolver?
It's called the largest production handgun in the world. Yeah. It's the 50 caliber revolver.
I think I've seen one before. Yeah, because it reminded me of Vash the Stampede's gun.
Yeah. Yeah, last year, I think, I don't know, middle of the year, June or some shit, some guy gave his girlfriend one of those, and she shot herself in the head or something.
Holy shit.
Because it flipped back, like the muzzle flipped back, and she pulled the trigger again and killed her. Yeah,
that and
shit like that cannot fly, even with me. But...
The Chris Kyle guy, who was a Navy SEAL, who thought that the best way to heal PTSD was to take his friend to the fucking range. Oh,
and
God.
That killed him. Yeah, I saw the movie Sniper.
Oh, I haven't seen the movie, but...
Yeah, his friend killed him. Because he thought his friend thought Chris Kyle abandoned one of his friends in Iraq or some shit.
And also, I think it was
so he wanted to get revenge on Kyle and kill him. I don't know. It was fucked up.
Yeah. Okay, well, hey, it was a good talk. I don't hate guns. I'm a pretty cool gun dude. That was one of my favorite things about the Burn Dog, and I think Hillary was full fucking retard on guns.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think that there is the constitutional argument I think can be made, and as much as people like to shit all over it these days, it's nice to respect it when you can, but...
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess the biggest shitty thing that there's not really much to come back to is America does have a problem with gun violence. We're the only country, really, that has the problem with gun violence, and we do, but I think at this point, I don't think that gun banning...
It's not that bad though. There's a we only have like around 30,000 a year in
Yeah,
cars,
10,000
cars,
yeah.
drugs, alcohol, all that shit is like over the 100,000.
Well, I think automobiles are 60, but yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, there are acceptable losses there, or apparently we've deemed as society that there are acceptable losses there. So,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I know it's fucked up, but shit is gonna happen.
sure.
People are gonna die in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would like to reduce it if possible, even related to guns. But if we have to give up a little freedom to do that, I don't think that's right.
Sure, possibly, yeah.
It could be debated, yeah. But yeah, good talk with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, see you later, buddy.
What other issues other than the Second Amendment are you right-leaning on? I think on a lot of economic policy, I think that any economic policy that involves working with markets is probably superior than economic policy that involves working against markets. So in general, I'm against price controls. Even though it's really hard to talk about these kinds of things because nobody seems to want to talk about anything like this. Like, for instance, I think that minimum wage in general is probably a bad policy because it's something that just adamantly works against the market. And I think that while I say that I'm against minimum wage, I'm not against trying to help families that are, more impoverished. But I think that a superior way to do that would be in the form of tax rebates or tax credits, something that increases your take-home income without establishing an artificial price floor in the market. Things like that, like rent controls and stuff like that, or like cap and trade, introducing a market-backed idea to get people to buy and sell different types of pollution. I think that's a good market solution rather than things that establish hard price controls. You had a discussion
with a reasonable person. Congratulations, man, Clappa.
Wow, thanks. Are you talking about rent controls like in New York City? Yeah, sure. Like a rent control, I think, is another example of things that are probably not good. Just basically things that markets want to move in certain directions, and anytime you try to make an artificial price control that hits against that, you're always going to have weird externalities that result or that occur as a result of that. Like, I don't know, in general, I don't like those things, but it's really hard to talk to anybody on the left because you can't really talk to anybody in either direction because they don't want to give any ground on that. If you talk to somebody on the left and say like, hey, maybe minimum wage is a bad idea, there's better way, they don't even hear anything you say. Like, no, minimum wage has to be there. You want to kill all poor families. And if you talk to anybody on the right, maybe we need higher tax rebates or tax credits or whatever. People are like, oh no, government federal spending, fucking blah blah blah. Right? So it's like impossible to ever get any kind of middle ground in that kind of discussion. Like, it's apparently you're either for government fixing all the problems of the market or you are against any type of help for people whatsoever. Like, there is no middle ground. Like.
Infinite time if it's not.
Yeah.
Woo! Wait, but if it's unloaded, then it doesn't impact.
You're conservative on the economy, but liberal on social issues. But I'm not conservative on the economy in the way that conservatives today are conservative on the economy. Conservatives today in the United States are fucking retarded on everything having to deal with the economy. I am conservative, I guess, classically. I don't even know what the correct words are because technically aren't we all classical liberals because we're for a capitalist economy? I'm conservative in that I prefer market solutions. What I would want is I want the government to help the market function as efficiently as possible while enacting government policy to help the losers would be how it works, right? So take something like immigration, right? A lot of people move into an area that's good, growing the economy, helping the supply of immigration, the supply of labor via immigration. These are good things. Grow the market, grow the economy. People that lose, like natives that experience depressed wages, find ways to help them with tax rebates, with some type of rebate policy that comes from the federal government, right? So you help the losers. Everybody reaps the benefits of the winners, a larger economy, more local production, more businesses opening up, businesses saving money on labor so that they can pass those savings on to customers, et cetera, right? Where would you stand on a federal basic income instead of a minimum wage? A basic income at its face value sounds to me like a horrible idea. I don't know. Maybe I could be convinced of it, but the basic income sounds like something that just de-incentivizes all types of work. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know. What is your take on net neutrality and prioritizing certain traffic for a fee? I don't know. I sound totally backwards here, but I'm 100% for net neutrality. I don't think that it's very strange because of the way the internet exists. I agree with the argument. I think that the internet needs to exist as a public utility. Otherwise, shit gets totally fucked because it's too prone to monopolization because of how you pay to run the lines and everything. Much the same way that I think that public utilities should remain public. I don't want there to be private water companies. I don't know. That sounds very scary to me. Although, I mean, if you look at what's happening in Flint, Michigan, apparently making it public doesn't even help sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. What about hiring women and minorities against the market factors or hiring the best workers? I guess, like, I don't know how I feel necessarily about creating positions for minorities. I am, in general, for affirmative action. I think that the affirmative action, I think, is best used when you incentivize work for minorities and women. So, for instance, creating college programs using federal funding or creating certain worker training programs that target people that are most affected disproportionately by certain things. So, like, maybe making a federal program that specializes in training Black people to be more equipped for certain jobs or to get them certifications for certain jobs, or Black scholarships or whatever. Like, I think that these
15x Abathur combo in chat, boys.
I think that these kinds of policies in general are good because they're government policies that incentivize. Like, I think typically as a government, what you want to do is you want to incentivize and de-incentivize using policy, right? You never want to like make hard controls. You just want to incentivize or de-incentivize, right? How would you deal with climate change? Climate change is something that would have to be dealt with by the government because that is an externality that nobody pays for. The problem with climate change is that there isn't a direct economic negative, so the market doesn't deal with it. So for instance, let's say that there is a way to create a product for half the cost and you do it by polluting the air. You always do that because there's no downside to polluting the air. There's no downside, right? There's no economic harm from it unless people like start boycotting your company or whatever, right? So this is in economics, this is called a negative externality, right? It's something that the market itself doesn't account for, and this is something that has to be addressed with some type of policy, you know. What's Trump's stance on the EPA? Everything Trump does is fucking retarded. His shit on the EPA is fucking retarded. I don't know, dude. The gag order and all the random shit. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not a big Trump fan. You're not gonna find a big Trump fan here, dude. If this is your first time on the stream.
What are they loading for?
Because some retard donated for some retarded shit.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Destiny, what were you just debating about?
Apparently that guy thought I was like really anti-gun.
Wait, does he know that you own several firearms?
Yeah, but I mean, depending on,
he does.
really, it depends on, yeah, it depends on when you turn on my stream, I guess, based on what you think I am.
You are a classic SJW, preps the bowl every night.
Yeah, depending on when you turn around, or if you were here for that argument against the black dudes and the violence. Apparently, I'm a massive alt-right neo-Nazi.
I think what you should do to remove confusion is you should hang like an LGBT flag in the back, like next to like a gun rack or something.
To remove confusion.
Don't hurt my gays, and then I'll protect it with my Second Amendment rights in the background or something.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, neo-Nazi, neo-Destiny really
make it a rainbow.
Oh shit.
Ooh.
Winged Neo Star 15.
Oh yeah, Destiny, you can join me in like hating my name because apparently it's associated with Nazis now.
What's your name?
Or always was.
Oh, Kalik? Oh, nice. I didn't know.
Well, not Kalik, but because it's Kalik88 and 88.
Oh,
like
the 88.
And I didn't know that when I started using it. Now I'm like, God damn it.
Wait, what is it associated with?
Wait, is it actually true? Don't make me Google this. Is it actually true that Hitler's birthday is on April 20th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, what's the
So I hear a lot.
April 20th.
420.
420, bro.
Oh.
420.
420, dude.
Dude, I'm
420.
I
should know that. Why do I not know
wasn't
that?
the guy just talking about buying weed?
Yeah, I should
Yeah.
fucking know that. Rip.
If you want to talk about
He was
Nazis,
too high to know about it.
Probably as the person who smokes the most weed in chat, weed culture is retarded.
Arasan, I just want to let you know this village has already been visited by that guy.
Okay,
Oh
listen.
my
I think we need to take. I
God.
think we need to move to kick this guy off the server.
Hey, Dustin, by the way, if you ever want to be an alt-righter, you can join my league club. It's White Supremacy with 14x88 as the tag.
Right. What does the 14 represent?
Or 16x88. It's like
14 is supposed to be the 14 words or something.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a pretty good meme.
The first village you ever saw was massacred.
Well, yeah, they're like half the buildings have been like bisected and burnt down, and
Yeah, aren't all the villages burned down?
well,
I never burned my village.
some of the buildings are still standing partially. One villager, I think, respawned.
There's a village really close to Permagrat that's growing hemp, carrots, potatoes, and the beet things.
It even has its own wall.
I heard we were changing mods.
What?
Is that wrong? No?
Yeah, we're getting rid of Cake.
Yeah, since Cake couldn't fix the server lag, we're actually just demoting him.
I found
Oh,
lava.
I meant mods as in Minecraft mods. Sorry.
Pretty sure
That's
we're
not what we meant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, we're going back to vanilla.
Ah, sweet dude.
I'm okay
Love me
with
some
that.
vanilla.
But we're also taking out the mining part of vanilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
only
so
find
basically what
mine.
happens is on the generation you basically get a selected amount of materials depending on your sub tier. So basically if you're tier 2 you get like 10 diamonds and some like iron and shit. But like T3 and T4 get like 20.
Wow, that sounds like pay to win.
Yeah, and if you're like
Yeah,
tier 4 on 10
exactly.
different accounts, you get the right to mine.
How many tier 4s do I need for creative mode?
What about tier 5?
Sorry. How can the government reduce meat eating? That contributes to global warming a lot as well. Okay, I'm only spitballing here, okay? These are the kinds of conversations that I would like to see happening. I don't know if this would be a good idea or not, but these are the kinds of ideas that I would like debated. So let's say that you have an example like that, okay? So meat eating causes global warming. Let's say that we establish that, okay? So, like, I feel like the liberal way of dealing with that, the Democrat way of dealing with that is, okay, well, then we make meat eating illegal, right? Or we severely limit the consumption of meat eating somehow. By restricting it or making it so you can only have so much meat per week, right? All of these things you're talking about are kind of like artificial like price controls, right? Or artificial like supply control or something, right? Like a better way to deal with that, I think, like in my opinion, is let's say that there are alternative ways of harvesting meat that are more environmentally friendly, but they cost more, right? Maybe you would do something along the lines of meat now has a 25% tax on it, right? And that money that gets taxed goes to an agency that distributes that money to people that harvest meat in more environmentally friendly ways. So if you go and buy a steak, say that steak used to cost $4, now it costs $5. So you pay an extra $1 per pound, but that money goes towards beef manufacturers or producers, I guess you would call them beef producers, that use more environmentally friendly ways to produce the beef. So now you have a market established where people in the market are incentivized to find more environmentally friendly ways to create meat, and then the people eating it pay a little bit more to offset those pollution costs, right? Like, so now, like, I don't know if that would be a good policy, right? All of those numbers were made up, but like those kinds of directions, I think would be more in line with market forces and would make more sense in terms of incentivizing the correct behavior and then funding the correct behavior and then letting the market do its magic in terms of figuring out how things work, if that makes sense. What do you think about states taxing cigarettes? Is the fact that it's addictive changing the? I mean, I think a sin tax is okay. Again, you try to tax things that you want to de-incentivize, and then you credit things that you want to incentivize. I don't know. I don't see a problem with tax on cigarettes and shit, because you're trying to de-incentivize that behavior, right? Hans the Manimal wants to know if moral actions of people should determine whether or not they're fit for office. I don't know. Personally, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm more concerned with their job, but realistically, I don't think people ever care. Like, Anthony Weiner is always going to be a guy that sexts girls or whatever, so no one will want him in office, whether or not he's good or bad at it. I'm not sure. What you just described is the antithesis of the free market. What do you mean? I don't agree with that at all. Basically, what you're trying to do is, okay, let me see if I can explain this. I mean, you could argue that all taxes are bad. All taxes are against the free market, right? So maybe we're talking about degrees of restriction, right? But what you're basically trying to do with something like cap and trade, right? What you're trying to do is you're trying to provide an economic incentive for something that there is no economic incentive for. You're incentivizing something that creates a negative externality that the market doesn't account for. So global warming or climate change, this is a negative aspect, a negative externality of any economy that is not accounted for in your profits. If you pollute more than the other guy, you don't pay a price for it, right? So if the government has a program where you are given some sort of rebate or some sort of financial incentive via a tax credit or a tax rebate or something, or lower tax rates or whatever, right? In order to produce something in a more environmentally friendly way, well, now you have created an incentive in the market for that type of research in order to procure that type of government funding, right? So you're essentially saying, if you can produce this much beef and keep your pollutants under this level or whatever, we're going to provide additional funding for you. Now the market can work on figuring out what the best solution is for that, right? What is the most economically viable way? These are, and this is where, this is the nice thing about this is that this is where you have market forces getting the solution for you, rather than so I would juxtapose this with like a Democrat policy of saying you can only have one steak per week, right? That doesn't really get us anywhere. Yeah, you're kind of limiting the amount of pollution by limiting the amount of meat that people can eat, but you're not really allowing the market to work in ways that you want it to work. I mean, I guess incentivizing like sorts of like meat black markets or whatever. Yeah. I think basically the idea, I think that in general, it's good to use government stuff to incentivize market forces to create solutions for you. You want the market to come up with solutions because it's the fucking market, because whatever it comes up with is probably the best solution, or at least the best solution available at the time. All the other market factors are already accounted for in the market. If a market is functioning well off of certain incentives, then everything is accounted for. You're not going to have these weird scenarios because something's banned here, it can only be produced there, or like weird shit when you make these really weird artificial price controls, right? Like, I think that incentivizing behavior is all around, I think, better than I think, or at least it's like my the steak ration has been increased from 4 steaks to 2, or decreased? You mean? Instead, you seem to like soft controls such as taxes and subsidies. The problem is that problem may too much if it. The problem is that the problem may be too much that it may require a ban. Oh, I mean, if it came to that where it actually required a ban, then yeah, sure, I guess, sure. I agree, but I think calling it free market is Orwellian, and the Democrat alternative is a weird straw man. This is literally what the Democrats propose when they want to affect policy change. That might be true, but that's not the rhetoric I hear when Democrats talk. Bernie never talked about, like, I don't think Bernie ever talked about, like, helping the losers in our economy benefit more from the trade agreements we have. Bernie just talked about getting rid of all the trade agreements. That was the rhetoric that I was generally heard, right? Or things like when you talk about a federal $15 an hour minimum wage, I'm not strawmanning there. Like Bernie said that, and even Hillary was forced to adopt that position. Or when Hillary talks about holding gun manufacturers liable, right? These are like hardcore controls that you're talking about. These aren't soft controls. These aren't incentivizations. These are like hardcore, like we're canceling these trade agreements. We are, we are $15 an hour minimum wage all across the country. Like, okay, I can give 2 examples right off the top of my head, but there's a million other things you can think of. So this is a general rule of thumb that I'm pretty sure is true. I'm pretty sure most economists agree with this. I don't have a background in economics, but you can ask people that have a background in economics. Typically, when you introduce hardcore price controls to markets, like very strange, roundabout, autistic shit can happen. When you have strange price controls, strange things can happen that that typically aren't accounted for in the original model. I can think of 2 examples of this right off the bat. The first thing, when people sell tickets to, you know how when people put tickets online to like events and whatnot, and they're immediately bought up by like StubHub and shit, right? So that's something where, hold on.
Destiny, what in the hell is going on with the U.S.? I'm scared. Press secretary insists that Mexico is still going to play for the border. WTF. Apparently climate change isn't real. Like, what?
Nice meme. Okay, so here's a quick example. You know how when people put tickets for sale online, you know how people like StubHub buy all of that up immediately and then resell it for higher prices? Right? Everybody is familiar with this, with these people that resell tickets or whatnot? I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with these. right? Okay, I'm going to say yes, right? This is an example of somebody walking in and exploiting, what would you call this, like a market inefficiency. The reason why companies like StubHub and Scalpers exist is because the initial tickets aren't priced correctly, right? That's the only reason why that shit happens. When E3 or BlizzCon tickets go on sale, they shouldn't be listed so cheaply that other people can buy them and resell them for a profit. That means that the initial tickets were priced incorrectly, right? That's the tickets need to be listed at a higher rate that reflect what the market is willing to pay for them, so that these other companies don't purchase them and then resell them for a profit. Because that profit, however much money that they make, their margins represent an inefficient pricing mechanism that these companies are using, right? That's an example of a third party stepping in and taking advantage of some kind of like market fuck up, right? So what somebody just said, I was going to bring up the rent thing next. Somebody said in California, they put price ceilings on housing for students. The price of housing is so expensive that graduates don't move out, they stay. So I've heard of this happening, but I don't know offhand. I've never seen it personally because I live in Omaha. But apparently there are a lot of strange rent controls that exist in certain cities where, like, if you live in a certain area, rent isn't allowed to go up. And what happens in a lot of these strange areas is, like, instead of people ever moving out, they end up subletting their apartment for more than they actually pay for, which I think is illegal in some places. I think in New York City, isn't that subletting rent-controlled properties illegal? But people do it anyway, right? Where people try to find all of these loopholes because they know that property is dramatically underpriced, and instead of moving out, they'll end up like moving out and subletting it, leasing it to other people to come in to abuse that market inequality there, right? Like you get like a lot of, and those are just two examples, right? And I'm sure that anybody that studies economics could give you like a million different examples of where these strange price controls exist that that incentivize all this very bizarre and unstable behavior in market participants that you really don't want happening, right? You want your market to have the incentives in place so that everybody can just fucking go ham, can go as hard as fucking possible, right? You want your market working in all of the right ways and incentivizing all the right behavior. And anytime you stick bizarre price controls in areas, people are always going to try to exploit those, right? Which is not what you want, you know? I gotta disagree. It's not price, it's supply. Well, hold on. Price is a function of supply. For instance, like here's the thing. We'll never, ever run out of oil for the rest of the human civilization. That we'll never run out of oil, right? Why won't we ever run out of oil? Because the last barrel of oil will cost like $100 billion, right? We're never going to run out of oil. It's going to reach a point where the price of oil is prohibitively expensive such that we no longer use it, right? When barrels of oil start costing 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 a pop, people will stop using oil, whether they like it or not. They'll have to because they won't be able to afford it. So like when you talk about how, an example is PAX tickets. I paid $600 on eBay for 2 4-day passes, but if PAX sold them for that much themselves, they would simply be bought up by the same people and resold for a couple hundred more on eBay either way. No, that's not true. So what you're saying is if PAX sold the tickets for $600, people would buy them for $800. If people were willing to buy the tickets for $800, you wouldn't find them on eBay for $600. They would list them at $800. They probably list them at $600 because that's the most people are willing to pay. That's probably the price that PAX should list them for, right? When people scalp things or people purchase things and then they relist them, they're not just doing it for arbitrarily high prices. Like, well, I always want to make it 20%. They do it for what they think the market will afford. Maybe PAX tickets are perfectly inelastic. Maybe people go to PAX for the diabetics medicines or whatever, for their insulin. Destiny, but supply takes a long time to build. When it comes to land, it is a finite resource. It takes a long time to build to increase supply. What are the people who cannot afford the current prices to do it in the meantime? Okay, so so you're asking me to come up with economic policy, like right off the top of my head. So I'm telling you right now, this isn't going to be perfect. But like, let's say that you had, I'm totally spitballing this, okay? Let's say that in San Francisco or New York City, you were having a shortage on doctors and you wanted more doctors to come in, right? But the problem is doctors can't afford the rent because only high-powered lawyers or Wall Street guys can afford rent, right? So what you would do is you would find ways to incentivize doctors moving in. So maybe you would give some kind of tax rebate to doctors that move into areas and and would apply for this rebate, and they specifically would get a reduced rent because that's the type of behavior you're trying to incentivize. Like basically stuff like that doesn't throw out of whack. It doesn't force people to charge lower prices for rent. It doesn't force people to for rent controls everywhere, right? You're just trying to incentivize like a certain type of behavior, right? I think is usually better than a hardcore price control. Dippin' Dots are shitty. You can get banned for shit like that in my chat. Fuck Dippin' Dots, they're so good. Destiny, do you really think that PAX tickets would have enough demand to be priced at 600? Some of the tickets have enough demand because some are sold for less. Well, then that's PAX's problem. Then they should only offer 100 at a certain price and then 100 more at a certain, or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever, right? Destiny, so the taxpayer should finance this? Yeah, you finance everything one way or another. Taxpayers everywhere finance things in one way or another, like, period. Isn't having a rent control or subsidizing the price effectively the same thing? So the difference is, I'm trying to see if I can think of an example. Fuck, dude, this is too complicated. I can't. I shouldn't. I'm not really qualified to talk about this. So you're saying, wouldn't it be the same if you had an artificial rent control versus incentivizing like a certain type of person to move in? You're saying it would effectively be the same thing. Somebody give me an example. Somebody give me like an example in chat that we can kind of go off of. This YouTuber will make a sex tape if she gets 1 million followers. I'll make a sex tape for 1 million followers. I'll do it right now. Put out the fucking word. Yeah, easily. What the fuck?
Have 6 months at least before we each hit 1 million subscribers.
Well, I'm also just curious, like, I didn't think the story was that insane, but apparently to every media outlet, it is very insane.
Rent control creates deadweight loss in the economy and disincentivizes new construction of lower income housing. I guess, like, here's my question. When you make a rent control in New York City, who pays the apartment owners the extra money? Or do they just lose out on money? I'm supposed to be playing League today, dude. They just lose the money? Oh, well then yeah, then that sucks shit. That's a massive de-incentivization for the market. They just lose out on money? Okay, so what somebody said earlier then was who bears the cost would be the different thing. I don't think that they should just lose out on money. Oh, that sounds like a super shit thing. That sounds super fucking shit, dude. No, what kind of behavior are you incentivizing there? Landlords that don't give a fuck about their property, people that would rather take their money and invest elsewhere. You'd see construction investment in other places. You wouldn't see any new projects going up because they know that they're not going to get the value. What are you saying? When you say, this sounds like a horrible policy. I don't understand how this works in practice. When you have a rent control, what you are essentially saying is the value of this property is this, but you're only allowed to make this, right? You're cucking somebody's capital. You're ruining the capital there. I don't understand why anybody would invest in that type of property. Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to look more into that situation. That sounds insane to me. That sounds like horrible economic policy. I always assumed that with rent controls, I thought that like there was some kind of tax fund that reimbursed the people for rent controlled housing. I wasn't aware that they just fucking lost out on money. Deadweight loss in the economy. Technically, wouldn't they have more money to buy products? Well, kind of, but you can't steal money from somebody like that. That's not fair. That's like saying if you would have run into your grocery store and steal groceries, then you'd have more money to spend in other places. That's like the reverse broken window fallacy. Can you have that's like the window that would be, I would call this the window creation fallacy, where if you magically create windows, you don't have to purchase them anymore. So now you have more money to spend other places, but that means that everybody that makes windows goes out of business. Like that's not. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that that's what you would want. Where the fuck is Highlight at? His name is Devin, right? How is that any different than taxing the winners and giving it to the losers? It is just a tax on property owners paid out to renters. It is a tax on property owners paid out to renters. How is that any different than taxing the winners and giving it to the losers? I don't, it's a really complicated thing, because when you talk about housing, it's so complicated. I can't really have this conversation, I don't think, because housing affects so many things, right? It'll affect your supply of labor in an area. When housing goes up in an area, the demand for construction and other products and everything in the local economy is impacted. I mean, tax revenues from people there have to be accounted. I don't know. This is too complicated for me. I'm not sure. It sounds like a horrible mechanism to me, but I understand what you're saying, right? Like, so let's say that you have a rent control of 50%, so people are only paying 50% of what it would be. How would that be any different than taxing the landlord owner 50% and forcing them to give the money? I don't know. I mean, I guess effectively would it be? It really wouldn't be, right? It just ends up coming out as a tax on the property owners that are then given to the renters. Yeah, I'm not sure. What is the difference between a rent control and a subsidy for a positive incentive? Well, when you incentivize behavior, you get market forces to work towards providing a solution. But when you But when you use controls, it seems like you are disincentivizing behavior. The rent control should pay for itself through consumption tax. Maybe the free market can't solve all problems. No, the free market can't solve all problems, but you want it to solve as much as it can. The difference is that the landlord bears the cost, while with subsidies where all taxpayers bear the cost. Well, it depends on how you subsidize things. Just because you subsidize something doesn't mean that all taxpayers bear the cost. If the subsidy is funded out of certain accounts that are only paid into by certain people, like for instance, all taxpayers don't necessarily pay for federal roads, only people that buy gas do, right? So I mean, it's... An incentive towards one behavior is by definition a disincentive of all other behavior. I don't know if that semantic argument is necessarily true. Because like if you create some kind of incentive for clean energy, are you necessarily disincentivizing other? I guess in some ways you kind of are, but yeah, I guess in some ways you are. I guess when I think of a disincentive, I usually think of like an actual, like a tax, like a sin tax on like cigarettes or something that I would consider to be like a direct disincentive. Maybe like direct or indirect incentives. I don't know. There's probably like actual, I would have to take like class in economics to have like proper words for all this shit. If that's the case, then what factors do you consider if you want rent control or subsidy? Okay, here's the general argument that I'm making. I can't speak to the rent controls directly. This is the general argument that I'm making, okay? Here, all right. We have in this box, this is our market forces, okay? Look, market forces. Hooray, okay? This is our mystery box, okay? So when you allow a market to function on its own, you have dozens, hundreds, thousands, millions of inputs, okay? All of these things are being factored in. When you talk about the market, okay, you're factoring in every single possible thing, generally, almost everything, or by definition, I think everything, right? After you factor in all of these things, the market will determine a price, okay? This price has factored in all of this shit. By definition, right? A market price and a free market economy will typically factor in everything. Supply of labor, education, availability of transportation, people's abilities to get these jobs, desire to get these jobs, your general employment, frictional unemployment, every possible fucking metric. People moving in, people moving out, immigration, demigration, people leaving, I don't know, whatever you want to say, the market will typically factor in all these prices, right? This price right here will be a good reflection of stuff going on over here. Maybe I shouldn't use question marks here, right? But this price over here will give you a good scope of the reality of what is going on, right? So if you have a perfectly good working free market economy and you see that like, I don't know, how do I say this? If you have this price here, like means something, right? Is what I'm trying to say, right? Market forces have dictated or determined that a certain price will be paid for a certain object, and that price exists in reality, and it bears all of the inputs of the market, right? If you subvert this price, using an artificial price control, you have no idea what you've done in terms of disrespecting these market forces. So you don't know like if you do a price control here, what kind of behavior are you incentivizing or de-incentivizing, right? Are you encouraging graduate students to take up 2 extra years of school because they can stay in an apartment for cheaper and you're financially incentivizing that, right? By creating artificial rent control. By creating minimum wage, are you increasing unemployment here among certain types of people because they're not able to procure certain types of labor, right? Are you disproportionately increasing the cost of some type of product because you're paying more for laborers whose labor the market would have paid less for, right? Like you're doing all of this weird shit in a roundabout way here where you are disrespecting market forces in order to arrive at this artificial pricing mechanism, and you don't really know like what this price is saying like about your economy. Like for instance, if we were to drop all minimum wage right now in the United States of America, if you were to get rid of all minimum wage right now in the United States of America, I think that most people agree that you would probably be about the same in terms of wages. Like, right? But let's say that you had an economy and you dropped all minimum wage laws and the minimum wage fell to $2 an hour, right? What do we do? What does that mean? What does that say about your economy? You have all of these, you've got inefficiencies that are rampant at that point. If you go from $10 an hour minimum wage and you drop it completely and the market forces drive wages down to $2 an hour, what's going on? What the fuck happened in your market, right? Were there businesses that could have existed and thrived paying these dollar amounts out? Are there inflated parts of your economy? Maybe housing and all of that is inflated because a disproportionately high amount of people on minimum wage had access to housing now because they were being paid too high of a price, and maybe that caused a mini bubble in real estate, right? These are all hypotheticals, right? But like, there's a million different negative things that could have occurred. Maybe there are businesses that are existing and can only exist, because of random shit, right? Like, all I'm saying is that in general, okay, so coming back, this is like the Econ 101 knows nothing about economics argument, okay? All I'm saying is that in general, when you have discussions, typically you want to work with market forces, right? Typically, this is what you want to do. If you create price controls and all of that shit, it seems like in general, you're disrespecting market forces and you're creating a lot of like weird fucked up shit. That's like the general, I think in my music talk, I have like a dude that gives like an intro course to econ or whatever. It's like 60 or 70 different tracks or whatever that are all like very simple concepts. Like, I don't know, that was like the gist of what I understood from that. Sure, a law student. Yeah, something like that, I think.
So if people are near...
Whoa.
He just needs to hire somebody to babysit his furnaces.
Why don't you just make a second Minecraft account and subscribe again and get paid?
No, what you do is you go on a journey to find ice, and then on your way you find someone who is at their house, and then use their smelting machines, and then come back for it on the way back.
And that's the stupidest shit I ever heard. It'll still happen.
What? Fuck you!
You know what? I'm bored. Who wants some slave labor?
I mean,
come
dude,
AFK at my house forever.
Dude, come feed my cows.
I will not
if
go
you
to your
slave,
house.
If you slave labor with me, you'll
Listen,
be mining at 11
if you
for
just
2
if you just
days.
want to AFK slave labor, you can AFK feed my cows every 5 minutes.
I don't know. I'm not with like
Isn't there
animal
automated
cruelty of keeping
feeders?
them in pens. So unless they're like free range cows, then I'm not for it.
I mean, let's be real. You don't give a fuck about any animal you've ever eaten in your life. You never once have you gone to the store and been like, "Oh, is this free range chicken?" You don't give a fuck, dude. Not even that. I bet your mom buys all the food anyways. You don't give a fuck what she buys.
Damn.
Actually, I'm the only one who's
chicken taste.
Okay, I want to start doing this the engineering mod, but I don't know how it fucking works. Fuck. I think I need to start. What's the first thing I should build? Do you think it should be windmills? Oh, the first thing we need is treated wood. So I need a creosote oil bucket. Are you more in favor of austerity measures or Keynesian economics? Dude, you ask a fucking grad student about this shit. I don't fucking know, dude. What is the difference? Keynesian is like government spending creates economic stimulus, and austerity is budget balancing, typically, right? I don't know enough about either policy to tell you what's better or more effective or whatever. I can't do that, dog. Okay, what am I fucking looking for? Okay, oil. Wow, it doesn't tell me how to create it? How the fuck do you get the oil shit? Creosote oil is a type of liquid added by the mod Railcraft. It is a byproduct of smelting wood or coal in a coke oven. To form a coke oven, arrange 27 of these blocks in a 3 by 3 by 3 cube and right-click one of the side center blocks with an engineering hammer. Holy shit.
So I know Guardians like attack everything.
Well, what was that?
Yeah, what are Guardians?
They're the big puffer
What was that noise?
Have you never played Destiny?
Yes, Destiny is so good. Oh wait, are you?
I've never played Destiny.
It's probably the best game ever created.
It's not.
It's really good.
I've heard it's absolutely terrible.
It's bad. I feel like people either hate it or they love it.
I feel like people who say they don't like it are like
until you
no,
reach end game, and then end game is just so repetitive. It's.
I feel like people who say they don't like it didn't play the first expansion.
I
so
did,
it's like,
and it was
well, yeah, of
awful.
course.
I mean, I played it. I played it for a good month,
What
and
type
then I
of
gave
game
my
is it?
friend.
It's a
around
first-person
in
shooter.
circles.
It's a first-person shooter.
Wait,
it's
is that like a game with like all the fucking bullet sponging bullshit?
Yep.
No, it's
Yes,
basically no,
yes,
it's
it
not.
is.
Yes.
Dude,
Yeah,
did
so
you
it is
play
that
past the
garbage
fucking? Did you play the first expansion?
Yes, I
there's
played the
no bullet
first two
sponges at all in the game.
expansions.
Can you name them?
Uh-oh.
Like
Kill
the
yourself.
wolf one and whatever.
Literally
I don't
kill
know.
yourself.
Do I need a name?
Those
on
aren't
it to prove
expansions.
it?
Those are DLCs. The first
they were
expansion,
shit.
Taken King. Do you even know what the fuck I'm talking about? Literally fucking off yourself.
What do you mean? They were
Hey,
shit.
I fucking didn't play this game, but I'm gonna have an opinion on it
I
because
did
it's fucking
Hey,
retarded. You're
hey,
literally
it's
like-
not our fault that
I'll link you my
it's not our
Xbox
fault
account
that the
right
game
now
you
so you
like
can
is
see the
complete
hours
garbage.
played on it.
Dude, you have the fucking two first DLCs.
Guys, let's
like,
all
who gives a
calm
fuck
down.
about that shit. That was
No.
literally 2013.
Oof,
Was it, though?
2013. Fucking dumpstered. God damn.
Listen, I'm very passionate about Destiny. It's a really good game.
It sounds
Shit
like
game,
you have a.
shit game,
People
shit
like to
game,
shit on
shit
it
game,
for all
shit game,
time.
shit
Never
game,
even played
shit
it
game,
in my
shit
life.
game.
All right, start a straw poll.
I can tell you're passionate about Destiny because you debate so much.
Can we not
Listen.
straw
Nice job.
Steven, do we have a lot of hay?
Hey? I don't think we
Hey.
have. I've never seen
Hey,
hey in my
everybody
life.
was supposed to say hey then. God damn it, dude.
Who said that? You're getting banned.
Everybody said hey.
You're getting banned too.
Hey, I found sugarcane. Isn't that neat?
No, actually,
Hey.
it's not that neat. I don't even know why the fuck you would tell us. God.
Whoa,
Can you-
that's pretty mean.
I'm refunding my sub.
Uh-oh.
And
Apologize
the,
immediately.
the bad part about Destiny was literally almost every boss fight you could cheese and no one wanted to do it the real way, so you just
Hey
cheese the shit
guys,
out of the
I played a
bosses.
fucking MMO 4 years ago, and so therefore it's still bad today. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have shit tasting games.
Shit.
Can we chill out?
I mean, you're going out of your way to
Yeah, you
re-mention
guys
it
are
and
getting
fucking shit
really
on the game,
emotional
so of
about
course
this.
I'm
We
gonna
were
shit on
just
it. What the fuck?
discussing a game and like the good and bad things about it, and then you just started
we
like
make it
raging.
Yeah, but I'm
channel.
telling you that the problems you have with the game have not been problems for like 3 years now.
I mean, it's the same problem every single person complains about. So I
mean,
haven't
who
even
are
played
these
the
people
game and I
complaining
know
about
about
it?
the problem.
You're doing the same thing fucking Trimbles do. Like, oh, everybody knows it. It's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, who are these people? Like, fucking
We have
kill
the best
yourself.
problems in our
The
game.
only
God
problem,
damn.
the only problem I've heard that's bad about the game is bullet sponging, and that's what I was
And
talking
it hasn't been a
about.
problem for years.
I haven't
now.
even played the game, but that's the
Exactly,
thing that I know
but
that
you have
people
this huge
complain
opinion
about.
on it. I
So
don't
that's what I'm talking
understand.
about, and you get this fucking giant raging boner about yelling about Destiny.
but who are these people? I don't understand.
Another debate.
I don't
won,
know
dude.
them personally. It's the fucking internet. Are you retarded?
Maybe I'm the retarded one.
People
Like
tell me
you're
I
saying
have the
what I'm
best.
saying is
people are
retarded. What
bullies.
you're saying is retarded. How does your personal experience relate to every single other
I
person's
mean, I don't
opinion
know.
on the game?
I mean, I'm no expert here, but I mean, if
Yeah.
we're gonna be like using
Hey,
anecdotes,
real
as
quick,
evidence,
before
I'd say
autism.
my personal anecdote.
Where do you get sandstone at? Is that shit that you have to mine from the
It's
base?
in- it's in the
though?
desert.
It's in the sand,
Just get
otherwise
4
you can
pieces
just
of
turn
sand.
4
Just get
sand
4
into
pieces of
Hey,
it.
sand.
Yeah, you
how
can
much
source
sandstone do you
sand
want? I got a
source.
shitload. I can go mine. for
Sandstone's
you.
in the
Oh, okay,
desert
never mind.
or sometimes on beaches.
Never mind. You can turn sand into it. I don't care. Okay, go back to crying.
But I
Look,
agree
Human
that
Killer.
Listen,
Destiny, the
experience
game,
based anecdotes
is
are more
complete shit
important.
because it's not really an MMO.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not really, but it is still an FPS, right? It just has like RPG MMO elements to it. It's still pretty like
Yeah,
not
man.
basic, but yeah.
Like,
Incredibly
whenever I'm at my
repetitive.
friend's house and he plays that game, I feel like I'm getting literal autism.
Isn't
it's a good
Destiny
game.
literally the most successfully selling game of like
Yeah,
any
like-
console like of all time? Like I mean,
Yeah, like it's pretty fucking big deal.
Well, that means it's good
But
then.
does success
No, it
mean
is
it's
good.
good?
Well, no,
I don't
but
think
I
that
mean,
means.
if
Wait,
somebody
how-
finds joy in it, then
Isn't
it's
Call of
obviously-
Duty one of the
Call of
most
Duty's
selling
pretty
games?
successful. And
Yeah,
everyone
Call of
says
Duty
it's
is
Call of
pretty
Duty
good.
used to be a good
Minecraft the
game,
most
like,
successful?
I mean, Call of Duty does what it does better than any game ever has. You realize Call of Duty is so
Whoa,
fucking
Titanfall.
influential that literally other FPS developers complain that if they don't copy Call
Yeah.
of Duty, nobody buys the game. Like I mean,
Like
there's
when
some
Call of
validity
Duty,
to it.
like when COD 4 came out, like everything after it was completely changed. Like you can't even fucking deny that.
Yeah.
Besides
every,
Halo.
every fucking
Halo
game
was the
after
only
that.
other good shooter.
I mean, fucking, did you see Halo Reach after COD 4 came out? Like they added sprint and loadouts and all that
Well,
shit.
no,
Like,
Yeah,
COD
yeah.
4
Like
changed,
Halo
COD
2
4
and
changed fucking
Halo
FPS
2
forever.
Yeah, like literally, it is the game. It's like I think Call of Duty was to almost the entire like FPS world what World of Warcraft is to the MMO world. Like
Oh,
everything
yeah.
will be
Yeah.
compared
It changed
to it.
everything.
Yeah.
Did I hear some whining about Destiny? It's a good game. Go fuck yourselves.
Listen, I will champion
Okay,
Destiny till the end of the fucking earth.
Trust me, I'm
Yeah,
a
we know you do.
Bungie
You
dick
suck my
rider,
dick.
but
Can you stop?
Destiny's
Can you
not
stop
a good
whitening
game.
the
What a
streamer,
shill.
dude?
Dude, that first expansion, that was leagues ahead of the original game. It was really good.
I mean, what you said was not incorrect. It added the new first expansion had like quests and shit. Like, dude, it added so much.
Quest.
Dungeons are
That's
cool.
game changing.
It is. The original Destiny game was not very good, but it's gotten much
I'll
better.
agree that launch Destiny was pretty fucking lackluster. Like the core gameplay loop was really fun, like the active shooting and all that was fucking awesome. But like the content, was pretty light.
I remember Core Destiny. The complaints about the content, people thought it was going to be like this whole immersive system, and there were like 3 planets or whatever, and people were like super ultra fucking pissed.
Launch Destiny was pretty fucking barren. Like the core gameplay loop was awesome, but the content was really like not there. I mean, and it's like you know, like I like Destiny a lot, but I won't shy to say that there's been some problems with the game, and that essentially every content they've put out since the launch of the game has
That's
been a
not what you
stopgap
were
for
saying a
Destiny
second
2.
ago. You were saying it was the best game.
I mean, you're just
You were, like,
needlessly shitting on the
dick-riding it
game with
really
like your
hard.
uneducated opinion with like literally no
I mean,
relevance
you guys
at
were
all. So
both
of course
really
I'm
getting
gonna fucking shit on
defensive
you.
for no reason.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just saying.
possibly one of the most polished and interesting shooters out there. Right
Yeah, like it's a really fucking good game, and if you're just gonna shit on it needlessly, then obviously I'm gonna.
What do you mean needlessly? That game gets incredibly boring and repetitive.
But at the end of the day, each of you guys have
I'm sorry if I don't
opinions, and it
give a shit
really
about your
doesn't
opinion.
matter in the grand scheme of things.
It gets MMO-ish a little, but that's when you find a clan. That's why you see posts about clans all the time. There's raids and dungeons to clear.
Yeah,
And then you
which
have
are
to wait a
really
week.
good.
You clear them in like 30 minutes, and you
That's
wait a week.
every MMO.
You don't
fucking
clear them
don't.
in every. You don't clear every MMO in 30 minutes. Though.
Have you ever played?
Real
WoW
quick, it's
before,
a
dude?
fast-paced fucking FPS. No shit, you're going clear in like 30 minutes.
And nobody
That's-
wants to do the boss fights the real way because every single one of them you can cheese.
Speedrunning has been like a part of any MMO.
Not really, but dog, you can't really cheese them.
It's got really good challenge too. So I don't know, like
Every
clearing
boss
the-
fight I ever did, we killed within like a minute.
Tell me,
But
how
didn't
far
say
did you
wait,
get in
So
the
if you
game?
kill them in a minute, how are they bullet sponges? I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? If you kill them in a
Because
minute,
you
how are they
cheese them
bullet
and you
sponges?
knock them off the cliff, then you don't even have to kill them and shit.
Sorry, when did you first play? Did you do any heroic content?
Dude, he
Any
played when the
raids?
game launched in 2013, and then the first DLC came out, and he's like, "Oh, this is trash." Which, like, to be fair, I don't blame you. It was pretty bad back then. But that's your sole opinion. The game's been out for 4 years since then. Like, of course, fucking shit's happened.
Yeah.
Can we just agree?
It's like literally coming in and complaining.
Yeah,
about
RuneScape's the best MMO ever.
RuneScape is the sickest shit. Yo, what level are you in RuneScape?
3.
Use all day, dude.
What is that even? Is that?
I've been playing since
there,
I was
like,
seven.
He's a pure crafter, dude.
You spawn at level 3.
Yeah, that was the joke, dude. You fucking
Oh,
idiot.
okay.
Jesus
Dude, I
Christ.
played the game. Fuck you.
What, you too?
Yeah, he only launched it.
I'm level 2.
Really, only made a count, didn't you?
He's got like all 99s except for his combat stats.
I mean, then again, I know a friend who I honestly asked how to beat the tutorial island.
God damn it.
He didn't know how to prospect the rock.
Nice.
If you can't play RuneScape.
I mean, that tutorial island used to be a lot harder, dude, back in the day, man.
Oh,
That was-
yeah.
No, it's the same thing.
Same shit. no shit.
never
I just
changed
told him that he was fucked, and then he gave up.
Wow.
You need to give up on a lot more than RuneScape, dude. That's like some resume-inducing shit. Like when you go to apply for a job, and they're like, have you ever played RuneScape by chance? And you're like, yeah, but I couldn't figure out Tutorial Island. Like that person just doesn't get hired.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Destiny, are you gonna give away that PS4 still?
Am I doing what?
The PS4 giveaway?
Oh, maybe if I'm not too lazy. Yeah, why?
Okay.
Do you think you're gonna win
He
it, dude?
wants it.
Yeah, you don't wanna
I mean,
win
you're
it.
winning about Destiny all the
Hey,
time.
Destiny,
so-
when's the RuneScape stream?
Yeah, never. It's not happening, dude.
How else am I supposed to learn how to do Tutorial Island?
I don't know, dude. Aaron, do you have all the
Even if
clay?
Jagex sponsored you.
Mike Spam, when are you fixing all this lag?
Yeah, can you give it all to me?
Jesus.
Can't pick
So
up
the
these
future
blocks
of
right now.
streaming is VR. All right, that's what it is. That's what needs to happen.
Anyway, so while we're all here and willing to argue about pointless things, let's
Oh,
talk
no.
about the future of the mod pack.
Okay, what are we getting rid of?
How about we fix the server before we add more mods?
I thought we add cheaters.
Both can happen actually at the same time.
I've been hearing people complain there's nothing to do, but I don't
That's
know
because your
how
mom's
valid
not
it-
around.
Add Tinker's Construct.
Dude,
Can we
you're so
prioritize
funny.
a server
You're
before
so
Can you
funny.
add the reduced
Thanks.
lag mod?
That was funny too, dude.
Add where it makes Botania not take 4 years. Thanks.
Reducing the lag does it.
True.
Hey, Destiny.
Hey, what's up?
What was your final verdict on the angry caller? Do you think he was a troll or not?
I don't know, dude. It's impossible to tell at this point.
That fucking video is so good, dude. When he when he actually legitimately started screaming at you.
Yeah, I have no idea if he was trolling or not.
And then he's
He'll
like, "You
figure
can't beat my
something out that
superior acumen."
That's clearly a troll.
I mean,
Well,
you say that.
Say he wasn't.
Because there was the other guy who called in, who was like pretending to be religious and like calling you racist. Who was a troll.
That guy had good memes.
Yeah, my favorite part was when he first called you and you're like, hey, what's up, buddy? And then he was like, oh, you're being friendly now that you're exposed.
I almost feel like that guy was actually being serious and he wanted to cover it up.
I don't know.
No, there's no
I'm
way.
not.
I mean, nah,
Yeah,
that
well,
was-
every time
that
you
was
guys say
kinda
there's no way, you've never heard these people in real life before. Like, this is my family. Like, you have no fucking idea how fucking crazy these people could be, dude.
Like,
nah, this is my state.
The guy that was screaming about how he's exposing you and like how he was
Yeah.
your downfall and shit like
Yeah,
that.
that dude
That guy was the fucking meme.
Wait, so do we not have any wheat?
Oh, I
No,
don't
I don't think so,
understand.
not
Was that
much.
a guy a troll or no?
What have you been doing with it?
Probably
I made a little bit
not,
of bad
but
bread.
maybe.
Mike's
My wheat
not
farm is
giving-
very small. It's literally like a 5x5.
What's
Yeah, I just
Can
you're
we use those
harvesting
giant
every
machines
time
you put in the middle of Miemengrad, or is that something